Guts and Grit Podcast. A podcast where we discuss overcoming the odds, resiliency, and never giving up. Join us each week as hosts John Melson, Joy Vatrabek, and Mark Renahan discuss coming back from failure and never quitting. Guts and Grit, it's go time. Welcome to another edition of Guts and Grit. We are on episode 13. My goodness, I am your host, Mark Renahan, of course, with my co-host, Joy Vatrabek, and of course, Sergeant Melson coming to us from Fort Benning. We have a special show today. We have two incredible guests. They come to us from an organization called FreedomJam USA. We have been highlighting nonprofits that help veterans and first responders, and these two gentlemen do just that. They are Dale Sizemore and Brian Judy. Now, you may recognize Dale's name. I don't know about his face, but Dale was one of the Rangers in the Battle of Mogadishu, which was featured in the movie Black Hawk Down. Sure. Brian is going to tell us a little bit more about himself and how he got involved with FreedomJam USA. So, a big Guts and Grit welcome to Dale and Brian. How you doing, gentlemen?
Welcome.
Good.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us on.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here.
For coming.
So I want to just start off briefly, Dale, and then we'll get on to whatever one of you want to start first. A little bio on yourself. And you know, Dale, I'd love to hear a tad about the experience being in the Battle of Mogadishu, and Brian, how you got involved with FreedomJam USA. So one of you, feel free to start it off.
Go ahead and jump on it, Brian.
You want me to?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. Well, my name is Brian Judy, the founder of FreedomJam. Came about of December of 2019 is when we started this. I've been doing philanthropic charity work since 2000. So just feel like, you know, we're lucky enough to be where we are today, and we could always get back to others. And, you know, came up with the wild idea to help. My dad's a veteran, and came up with the idea to help veterans in December of 2019. We started putting a show together January of 2020, and then this thing called COVID hit. But we pledged through, and we were the only people that put on a show in Missouri in 2020.
Wow.
So we had our show. We had about 600 people inside, which is crazy that we still were able to have our show. But it went on, and our headliners at the time actually gave up about $6,000 to a show that they were supposed to be doing in Ohio to come to our show for two.
Wow.
Well, pandemics can't stop supporting veterans and first responders. So, Brian,
Absolutely.
How did you get involved with Dale? Now, Dale, I know you too are very like to give back, and you know, in the veterans community, I know the Black Hawk Down story is quite famous. How did you two kind of get involved with one another? And Dale, how did you get involved with FreedomJam?
Well, I met Dale actually through a buddy of mine. So my day job is in the building materials, and a buddy of mine is actually a rep for some building materials, and he's actually friends with Dale. So it's a real small world how this all interconnects. And then Dale, I'll just let you run from there because you got the rest of the story.
Just part of the story, Brian. FreedomJam story, baby. Our mutual friend Rob, who I grew up with, he was friends with my younger brothers. Just called me one day and said that, hey, there's this dude that, you know, he does a lot of charity for veterans, and I think you guys would, you know, be able to help each other out a lot. So, you know, I called Brian, and you know, he sounded a little creepy on the phone, but I thought I can't. As you can see, he looks a little creepy, but he really is a good dude. He really is a good dude.
Give me more credit than that. A lot creepy, at least. Come on. Not a little, a lot. Give me that. Come on.
The first time he saw you, he was going to call the cops as a strange man in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think you did. We got good Dale stories, so believe me, we got Dale stories.
Now, Dale, how old were you when you joined the service? Did you join right out of high school? How did that work for you?
Yeah, it was about 6 months after I graduated. I actually went in. So I signed up in I think June of 1990, the year I graduated, and went in January 3rd of 91.
I graduated in 1990 also, so you're a young buck like myself.
Yep. Oh, yes. Yep, definitely. Which is why I'm wearing readers.
Yeah, exactly. We got the readers on. There's nothing wrong with them. They make us look sophisticated with House of Learned Doctors. Now, so you joined the Army, and how did you get into becoming a Ranger?
Well, the recruiter, had me in the recruiting station. He asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, I have no idea. He said, let me show you some films. And man, I just see these guys rowing down the river in camo and, fast roping and jumping out of airplanes. I'm like, dude, that's what I want to do. He said, you want to be a Ranger? I said, sure. I had no idea what it was. So, but he did square me away, and me and my recruiter are still close friends today. Chris Springs, he was awesome. And he told me, he said, hey, when you go up there, he said, don't take no for an answer. He said, if they tell you they don't have a Ranger slot, get up and walk out. And that's exactly what happened. He said, what the recruiter's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to be a Ranger. And he's like, yeah, I don't think we have anything. So I stood up and I walked right out of his little cubicle, and he chased me down the hallway, and he's like, whoa, come back here. And the first slot they had was in January of, or would have been April of 1991. So I left for basic in January of 91, and it's just short story from there.
Dale, you can't tell, but John is like ready to jump up and start doing push-ups. He loves these stories of people becoming Rangers. I can see him right now. His brain is twirling. But before I let him start talking, when did you find yourself? I mean, I think 93 was the Battle of Mogadishu. So, I mean, can you just, I don't, again, when we have a rule here on our show, when we're talking to veterans, whatever you want to share, you share it. Whatever you don't, you don't. So if you're sick of talking about this, I totally get that. But if I have one of the Rangers from the Black Hawk Down story on my show, I have to ask some questions about it. So what was it like? I mean, and not only the battle itself, but when you came back and the movie came out years later, how did that affect you, and the whole story?
Man, I tell you, being in the Rangers is like nothing else. There's nothing else in the world like it. I haven't found anything else in this world like it, and I wouldn't trade that time for anything. So, I mean, I met just the greatest guys in the world who are, 99% of them are still, my best friends. And, I talk to 10, 15 guys every day, get to work with, half a dozen of them with 3 Rangers whiskey. And so it's just, you can't trade that for any amount of money. But, we started in 91. And by the time 93 came around, I'd already had my Ranger tab. I was an E4, graduated Ranger School on my 21st birthday. I still didn't drink. I was one of those, good guys. When we got called to do the mission, we were in Texas doing some training. They flew us to the Delta compound, and at the time, no other unit had been there to train. And so, we looked up the Delta guys, and still do. Now they're, friends still to this day. I, talk to a few of them, every now and then. And that the thing that most people don't understand is that, you train to do that. Rangers, we had the best equipment, get to, shoot live rounds all the time. And that's the real difference between special operations and, say, the National Guard. If you gave the National Guard the rounds that we wasted every September trying to get rid of to get more ammo the next year in October when the fiscal year started, they would be much better trained than most of the military gives them credit for. And but it's weird because you train for it. Even getting shot at, you don't. I wasn't thinking about it. Wasn't thinking about rounds going by. It wasn't until Blackburn fell out of the helicopter and Pillow was killed that started to sink in just a little bit, and still wasn't afraid to be out there. And at the time all that happened, I still had the cast on my arm. So when the opportunity arose, pulled the hep lock out and cut the cast off and jumped on a Humvee and went out. all I could think of was, my brothers are out there, and, and besides, if I was the only guy not to go, I would get smoked every chance they got for not having a CIB. John, you understand that, right?
Yeah, I want to say, John, you're holding back. Let loose, Johnny. Go ahead. You can talk now. I can see that John wants to get involved. So go ahead, John.
Oh, okay, so I'm really excited.
I can tell.
You guys came on. I appreciate and love what you guys are doing to give back to those that have stepped up to the plate and sacrificed and dedicated themselves to serve our country, right? So I can't thank you guys enough. And to come back in and contribute in the manner that you're contributing, that's awesome. And I hope when my time is up, when I hang this uniform up, I still have that drive and ambition like yourself to give back to the guys that have sacrificed and dedicated their lives to this, right? And I've watched Black Hawk Down probably 3 million times.
I was going to say the same thing.
And to think one of those real life people, not the Hollywood people,
right?
And like I can't reach out and shake your hand or hug you, but to think like there's somebody that one of those people.
He just gave you a hug, John, over the camera.
Those guys, I had already served in the Marine Corps at that time, and I'd put my military service behind me. And then when Black Hawk Down came out and I watched it, I was like, man, what did I do getting out? Like, I was a knucklehead to get. I should have stayed in. Like, that brotherhood, that camaraderie, like, it's unmatched anywhere, right? And then to think how close those bonds are when you go through some bad shit, right? Like, you endure that. And that bond is so tight. A lot of people just don't understand it, right? That I wouldn't say it's a trauma bond because it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we can count on each other, right? And man, to be able to sit here and I got one of you guys here on the show. Mark got you to come on. Brian reached out to us. Like, I'm blown away and I'm flattered you guys would take the time out of your day to come on here and talk to us on the show and spread your message to our listeners, right? And again, I watched that movie so many friggin' times, man. I got the lines memorized, not to know if those were the actual conversations that took place. Right? But I think how they portrayed you guys, and I know what, in my own experiences, some of the shit that I've been in, I hope I have lived up to how they portrayed you guys, right? Because I watched you guys and was like, that's how we need to be. We need to be that hard. We need to be able to endure. We have to face the worst of situations and train. My big thing is train to be hard to kill, right? Train as hard as it could possibly be. So when it is hard, it's not so bad, right? And we can endure it. And you guys really, as much as that Hollywood was, you guys lived it. So that real life that you guys get to share and bring to all of us, has inspired people like myself. And I appreciate it, man. And I hope my time in the service, now that I'm in the Army, National Guard, but I'm in the Army, that when I'm over there and I'm in the shit and I'm training soldiers, and I was a Ranger instructor for a while, that I've upheld how the lifestyle you guys set in stone for your legacy, right?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say
I instructed at 4th RTB for a year.
Oh, okay. When I would walk patrols, I walked with Bravo Company at 4th. I was very loud.
I would say that Black Hawk Down put the Rangers kind of, you heard about, if you didn't know much about the military, after that movie, the Rangers definitely came to your head. Dale, one of the funnier things I want to just mention briefly, and John was also guilty of this, is I told everyone I could, my friends, like, guess what? This week in the show, we got one of the Rangers from Black Hawk Down coming on. They're like, oh, who? I'm like, Dale Sizemore. And they're like, no. His name is Tom Sizemore. He's an actor. I'm like, no. One of the, and they're like, no. And then one of my buddies was like, how did you get him? You know the actor? I'm like, no. I'm like, the Ranger who had the cast on, and they're like, oh, that's just as good. I'm like, I know it is. So, but let me ask you, did the movie depict the actual battle? Like, what was your feeling on that, Dale? Do you feel that like the how they portrayed it was and were you happy with the actor who played you?
Yeah, Matthew Marston. Funny thing, Matthew and I had just became acquainted in the last 4 or 5 years, and he is seriously a good dude. Awesome guy. I really can't say enough about him, but I think they did a fairly decent job. You had to take 18 hours and condense it into 2, and not just 18 hours, but prep time, the hours before the actual battle itself, and then afterwards. So it was it's tough to do, and they condensed some of the characters, like Matt, great soldier and great leader. He there was no way he could be in all those places at once, in the moving element, in the casualty collection point, with the convoy. So they just a whole bunch of characters went into making Matt's character, and Matt goes around and speaks about it, and I'm sure he could probably give you a better idea of what he thinks. But in general, I think they did a fairly decent job. The first time we all saw it was in Fort Benning. They got a bunch of us together in this theater there. Thanks to Kenny Thomas, had a private showing for us, and we watched it there. And man, all we did was rip it apart the whole time. So the second time I watched it, I told myself I'm going to watch it for entertainment purposes only, and I was entertained. So that's really all that matters. Are people entertained, and are they educated a little bit about what actually went on over there? And it was fairly close. So, and Mark Bell did a great job on the book.
Go ahead. I can appreciate you saying that, because my husband's a Marine, and he's always picking out stuff and saying that's not how it happens. That's not really how it goes.
Well, I must imagine also the opportunity of ball busting to your fellow Rangers in the movie must have been huge, with like what actor got to play who and things like that. So that must have been an interesting experience. So all right, so back to Freedom Jam, because I want to keep it's an amazing event that and we just I've been looking into it. So, Brian, I'm going to ask you a few questions. So, Freedom Jam is September 10th for all you who are watching. You can go online to www.freedomjamusa.net. You can sponsor veterans to go. So, even if you don't live in Missouri, it's taking place in St. Peters, Missouri at the Diamond Music Hall. But if you don't live there, you can still go to their website. You can donate. You can sponsor. And the guys here will send local veterans in your place. And there are some amazing country music stars playing that night. I'm going to let Brian tell you a little bit more about that.
Sure. So, and once again, thanks for this platform. But we have a local artist named Mark Perkins. Mark Perkins is actually active Army National Guard also.
Oh, wow.
So we get the best of both worlds. We get the best of the music, plus we get the best of the service. So that's a pretty unique thing. So we're happy to have him, and he's been at the 2 shows prior to this, and it's kind of a boot stomping good time band, so when he gets up on stage, it's a party. So we'll leave it at that. And then Molly Lovett is right here from our backyard, and she took off after the very first Freedom Jam. It was on a Saturday. She took off for Nashville on Sunday, and now she's taken Nashville by storm. So she's coming home for her this will be her 3rd appearance on our stage. And then we have Taylor Austin Dye, who actually was just with Winona Judd, just open for her. And a matter of fact, tonight she is with T. Graham Brown as they are raising money for the flood victims of Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
She's originally from Kentucky, and they are doing a flood relief tonight. So, and the thing with these artists is, they're very much like us. We could pick whoever we wanted, but we want to pick people who have similarities and characteristics like us. We don't want somebody that's just coming to do it for a paycheck. We wanted them to be our foot soldiers out in their neck of the woods, so they can go back and tell the story. Well, hey, here's what Forgotten Coast Canine does. Here's what Freedom Jam does. Look for them coming to a city near you. Here's what Veterans Community Project does, because we all know it. We don't pay attention to our veterans enough.
No, it's and I'm glad you happened to just mention the 2 groups. So for those, I think we already brought this up, but I want to just touch on this again. Yeah. Freedom Jam USA takes the money that they raise and they donate it back to both veterans groups and first responders
Yep.
and law enforcement. Now, the two groups they have picked this time are the Veterans Community Project and Forgotten Coast Canine. And I think, Brian, I was told that the donations or the money raised here may get a veteran a service dog from Forgotten Coast Canine. Maybe you could touch on that?
Yeah, that is absolutely true. So we did have one picked out, and fortunately or unfortunately, he got a job. He was fighting like hell to get him a job, but he had to move to North Dakota. So the original guy that we were giving a dog to has moved, but we already have another one in line. But it will be happening actually on our stage. So,
Wow.
you know, the whole idea about the service dogs with Forgotten Coast Canine is we want to decrease veteran suicide. And if they have that service dog there, they feel like they do have to take care of it. The dog, it's a symbiotic relationship. But having that dog and that support is very, very crucial, just like equine therapy, you know, with a horse. So we're honored that Forgotten Coast Canine and people that train the dogs called Top Tier Canine. And they're the ones that are, you know, putting the money behind it and doing it on our stage.
Thank you for what you do. I really appreciate that. As my husband is a recipient of one of those dogs, or was trained for his service dog. He lost hearing in Fallujah, so I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah,
And
and you, I would say probably 2 months ago, I was in the car riding with Chris O'Brien, who runs Forgotten Coast Canine. Didn't know the guy that we were calling. Called him out of the blue. He was a Vietnam War veteran. Immediately, Chris just said, "Hey, how's the dog doing?" He was like, "Fine." He's like, "This is awesome." He goes everywhere with me. He goes, "Well, I got a buddy of mine here, Brian Judy, with Freedom Jam, and do you have anything that you can say?" He goes, "Well, I don't know if I would be here if I didn't have that dog."
well, that's absolutely
It's impactful.
Yeah, no, it's super
It is.
impactful. And just Forgotten Coast Canine, ForgottenCoastCanine.org, and the Veterans Community Project is the VeteransCommunityProject.org, spelled both the way you think they would be spelled, except canine is the letter K and the number 9, not N-I-N-E. So, Dale, I got another question for you. I keep hearing about this Three Rangers whiskey. That what is this now? Is this a bunch of Rangers got together and made some whiskey? Or could you touch on that for a second? Because you told me that before Somalia you were sober, and then afterwards you're now part of a whiskey company.
Well,
He's not so much now.
after Somalia, vodka and myself found each other, and it was a love affair. Too much so, but Three Rangers was founded by a ranger from Somalia, John Collette. It's made up in Chicago. He made Three Rangers whiskey, Three Rangers rye, in order to start Three Rangers Foundation. And every dime from the whiskey went to the foundation. Now they are separate entities. Some, more well-known Rangers in our community, Command Sergeant Major Mike Hall runs it. Marcus Hall is there also. So they collect enough donations to run the foundation on its own. We still donate a minimum of 10% from the whiskey back to them. Not to mention, hundreds of hours each in charity work. So to help them raise money. And it's a fantastic organization. They help Rangers and their counterparts, their attachments, transition from military life to civilian life. They have mentorship programs, job programs. They're just absolutely amazing. Maybe one of these days we'll be able to sponsor them Freedom Jam, but they do a great job. But they have focused they're focusing on just those Rangers and those attachments that are, those people that are attached to Rangers, because if you go too broad, you don't get to help as many. So this way they at least cover, the regiment, and they're tied in with the regiment. I mean, hand and foot, and it's amazing the things they do.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, the more organizations that can give back and help veterans, the better. Johnny, I know you want to say something, so go ahead.
I saw one.
You just look happy and pleased at all this.
He's chomping at the bit.
I still can't believe I have somebody from Black Hawk Down kind of like sitting across
That
from
is
me.
really cool.
Hey, you know how my wife feels every single day.
By the way, I'm not going to lie to you. I'll tell you the first thing I'm doing when I go home tonight is I'm watching Black Hawk Down. And then I'm going to call everyone and be like, yeah, I see the guy in the cast on my show tonight. Take it easy.
Yeah, I haven't watched in a while, so I might.
No, it's a fantastic movie. Now, did anything change, Dale? Like when the movie came out afterwards, was it different, or were you still a Ranger when it came out?
Nope. I spent 5 years, and I got out in February of '96, and the movie came out the day my oldest son was born.
Oh wow!
And his name is Reese James, after Lorenzo Ruiz, who was my best friend, and James Smith, the Ranger they were digging into his hip to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
I was in his team. I always say he was in my team, but that wasn't the case. He was the team leader. Another great soldier. So, and my ex-wife, who probably should have left me long before she actually did. She it was no big deal for her to go ahead and name him Reese James after the two of them. And, plus there was James Smith, James Cavaco, and James Joyce. So there were 3 Jameses that ended up passing away, in Somalia. And so it's just, it's an honor for me to have him walking around, and he's a stud. He looks just like me.
So obviously a stud. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone who graduates in 1990 wears glasses is a stud, Dale. You know what I mean? That's how it works these days. So guys, I got to tell you, it's amazing what you're doing. And now, Brian, do you have any larger plans for Freedom Jam? I know. So far you've been doing them in Missouri, correct?
Right, correct. Yeah.
So
I didn't even, when I was telling you guys about that, I didn't even tell you guys about our headliner.
Oh, who's the headliner?
Who's that?
So that's Brady Seals. So if the name Seals rings a bell. So if you remember back in the day, Seals and Croft or Dan Seals, that is his cousin. So Brady Seals actually was with the band Little Texas, which in the 90s had God Bless Texas, so many multi-platinum awards.
Yes. Yeah.
And just the coolest laid back guy that you'll meet. He even does Tom Petty stuff, which is really cool too. He's got a band called the Petty Junkies. But we're blessed to just be able to have talent like that. Somebody that's been on the big stages, and that has such a pedigree of musicianship. So,
and Brian, like you said, it's not just a concert. It's kind of just a night of fun with like-minded folks who want to help veterans and law enforcement. Right. So it's a great night for anyone to go there. It really does. Music is just a part of it, which is a big part, I know, but it's the camaraderie, and it's a good old, like you said, a boot stomping time. My friends at home are watching me, and they're seeing me smile, as you mentioned, these country music stars, knowing full well I have no idea who they are. But I'm going to pretend on the show that I do as the host. But John and I are Boston City guys, so we don't know a ton of country music guys. But
had heard of God
like
Bless
I told
Texas.
Dale, if you ever need a rapper show, I know a lot of underground rappers I could get for you. I don't know how that would work, but actually, go ahead.
You asked about if we were going to branch out. So we've talked about doing a rock show next year.
All right.
As well as more of a country rock type show. So, and we're looking at branching out, and I can't say much, but there is a city out on the East Coast that is very interested in us coming out there and doing a show out there.
Well, Brian, any way we can help.
Us, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to come to the show on the 10th, but it's my 50th birthday, and I'm going to be out of town, so I'm a little upset about that. But
well, if you would have come, you could have had some Three Rangers, but you just blew it.
I actually don't drink, so it's no fun. But John is going to come, and we're going to drink some Three Rangers for John. I'm going to buy John some Three Rangers. So, guys, once again, anybody who's watching, it's www.freedomjamusa.net. Now, again, you do not have to live in Missouri to help the vets and the first responders here. If you want to help, you go to that website. There is sponsorship opportunities. You can also purchase tickets for these, Dale and Brian will fill with local veterans. Our veterans are, even Missouri, doesn't matter what state they're from. Let's help them out in every single state, one state at a time if we have to. It is being held at the Diamond Music Hall. The doors open at 3. I think show starts kind of moving around 4. There is a ton of unbelievable country music guests. There's a few we didn't mention. There's also a young lady who's going to be singing the national anthem that is incredibly talented.
And a 12-year-old.
And there's a 12-year-old who is singing. That is a really good country music singer. So, again, all of the money goes to the Veterans Community Project and Forgotten Coast Canine. Guys, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. Dale, Brian, anything you want to add before we close it up?
Yeah. Yes. So even if you didn't have a chance to sponsor this year, after the concert, I would say get your sponsorships in so we can, get your logos, on our, on all our advertisements, and you could be a sponsor for next year. If you want, and if you sponsor this year, want to sponsor again next year, great. The more help, the better. The sooner the better. We'll make this thing, grow.
Yeah, and I'd like to see it go across the whole USA, 4 or 5 concerts a year with all the money going to groups like Forgotten Coast Canine and Veterans Community Project.
And that really has been a theme here on Guts and Grit. I mean, I know we're saying Guts and Grit, but everybody has been giving back to the community and especially veterans. So
it takes guts and grit to give back.
It does.
One thing about Veterans Community Project, which makes them very unique, which is why I love them. So whenever that veteran moves in, so the very first one was in Kansas City, Missouri. So they know what it kind of takes, but it takes a little over 11 months for them to transition through the program and through the training and job skills and so on and so forth. Once that veteran graduates to the next level, so it's if it's an apartment or his own home or whatever it is, anything that is not nailed, glued, or screwed in that tiny home, that veteran gets to take with him the bed, the microwave, the chair, the refrigerator. There's nothing like building something up and then go, oh, by the way, you have to go do all this other junk, and set them up to fail. So that is something that they just do as they supply the veteran with all of his, appliances and stuff. And that's where anybody listening to this, that's where you guys help us, because the money that we raise can help replenish these homes. It can help with the food that they give them. So $29 might not seem like a lot, but it's a ton.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's great that you're providing, both of these organizations. One provides housing and the other provides a service dog. I mean, it's incredible what they do. So, Johnny, before we take off, I'm going to let you do your usual finish, but I'm sure you have a few words before we go. You still look excited.
Mark, I haven't had a chance to have a ranger on the show. So I ask all the rangers I come across that may have been a student at one point or they're in senior leadership, and I always ask them. So I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to ask you the same question. I'm going to admit I'm always curious about this, so that's why I ask this question. The Ranger Creed is 5 stanzas.
Yes.
Which one is your favorite?
Ooh, man, that's a tough one. The first stanza has always been one of my favorites. But man, it's hard to pick. I mean, that the whole creed is they're just words to live by.
Yes.
In the military, civilian life, you cannot replace that with anything except maybe the Bible. If you're a believer.
Yeah.
So, but the Ranger Creed is something that you live by as a whole. It's kind of hard to piece out, but I definitely like the first stanza.
Okay.
For those of us who don't know
Johnny,
that, can you give us a little
What
clue?
is the Ranger Creed there, Sergeant Melson?
So there's 5 stanzas, and they consist of, like small paragraphs, and they're the creed that we live by as Rangers for becoming Rangers, right? But Tom.
Dale, you were right the first time, not Tom.
You got it.
Tom Sizemore's the actor.
Down movie mode. Right? He served in regiment. He is an Army Ranger. I am Ranger qualified. I'm a Ranger leader in the regular formations in the operational force, right? Conventional. So it's 5 stanzas, pretty much. 6. I'm sorry, 6. Yep. Right? And it is the word Ranger. right? And each letter, each paragraph or the stanza starts with the R, the A, the N, the G, the E, the R. And it's what we recite, and that is our creed. And as he said, it is a part of you. It is what you live by. And it becomes, you just carry that on. Mm-hmm. And they say the toughest part of Ranger School is not the fact that you graduate Ranger School, but what comes after Ranger School is upholding the creed. Because everybody looks at you to expect more from you, because that's what it talks about in our creed, 100% and then some, right? But I agree. The first one is great. When the question turns around, they're like, what do you think? Sorry, Melsa, which one's your favorite? I always say the last stanza, right? Readily will I display the intestinal fortitude to fight on to the Ranger objective and complete mission. And though I be the lone survivor, right? So no matter what the odds are, you're going to fight on to me, like to your dying breath. Like you're just going to continue to go. And the young soldiers, they get off on it. It's like, that is, yes, not to say that their choice was any less than, but that's mine, right? And I just wanted to share that with you. Like, and I picture what your guys' effort was to the core. Like, you guys were ready to display it. You fought on, regardless of what was going on, whether you're going to be the lone survivor. Like, you guys pushed on, and I'm just flabbergasted this guy's on my show right now.
I'm with John. I want to see Black Hawk Down.
I'm quite pleased. All right, we're going to let these two go because it's getting late. But everybody, coming up to our September 11th shows next week, we got 2 incredible shows. Hopefully a third one we may be adding. Once again, Freedom Jam USA, www.freedomjamusa.net. It is an incredible organization. It's going to be an incredible night, September 10th. St. Peters, Missouri, Diamond Music Hall. Again, you don't have to live in Missouri to be a part of this and to help out such fantastic groups such as the Veterans Community Project and Forgotten Coast Canine. And I still had to look down and read that, even though I've said it 10 times because I'm losing my mind. But anyway, Johnny, you want to take us out with your famous tagline?
Guys, what I always tell everybody in the show, everyone always thinks like my real office is at the gym. And they're always like, why do you spend so much time in the gym? And I tell them, and I hope you could appreciate this. I tell everybody, I train so much. I train to be hard to kill. So that if you're going to try and take my life, I'm going to make you work for it. And I'm going to work myself out. So it is a tough thing to accomplish, right? So train hard to be hard to kill.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you,
Dale,
Dad.
Brian, 3 Rangers Whiskey. Don't forget, Freedom Jam USA. See you all in the next Guts and Grit. Thanks a lot, gentlemen.
Thanks, y'all.
Have a good night.
You too.
Guts and Grit. Like, subscribe, comment, share.